Kelsey, stop it! Mom, Kelsey's bothering me again.
Hey, cut it out.
He's bothering me.
No. Cut it out. Let's get your things together. No. Hey, he's here right now. Let's go. Quick.
Come on, Kelsey. Grandpa!
Hey, buddy, you're getting bigger every day.
He's gonna run me!
Hey, Kelsey, can you say hi to Grandpa?
Hi, Grandpa!
Can I have a kiss? That's my favorite granddaughter.
Thanks for taking me, really. This
It's
is
not a problem. It gives me time to spend some time with him.
Kids, make sure you're not too rough on Grandpa. Got your phones in case you need to call me?
Yes, Mom, we'll be fine.
All right.
We're going to have a great time today.
Okay.
Not to worry.
Thanks. Take care. Have fun. Bye.
Grandpa, do we have to go to the museum?
Ah, come on, it'll be fun. It's your history we're looking at here. Yours, mine, even Drew here.
Are there gonna be dinosaurs at the museum, Grandpa?
No dinosaurs today, Drew. It's a modern history museum. You know, the kind of stuff that you should both know about, stuff that's changed the way we live our lives today.
Stuff around here?
Well, sure. New Hampshire's full of history. Have you two ever heard about Abbot-Downing and the Concord coaches?
Nope.
Well, before there were cars and buses and all the other transportation that we have now, America used horse-drawn carriages, and not just America, the world. And we made a special brand of them, right here in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire's actually famous for something?
Oh, I'd say so. Just imagine if we hadn't progressed to engines and automobiles. That's how you'd be getting around every day now. Instead of school buses, you'd have big, long, horse-drawn coaches.
Have you ever rode one to school, Grandpa?
No, Drew, I'm not quite that old. This was back in the 1800s, when America was still young. It was a tough time, but it was an exciting time, too. Just think what it would have been like to travel without a closed, comfortable car like this, drawn by horses and pulled across the countryside.
In the years before the Industrial Revolution, the invention of steam engines, trains, planes, and automobiles, America and the world depended on other forms of transportation, namely ships and horse-drawn vehicles. In New England, wagon building was an especially important business. Carriage makers like James Gould of Albany and the Gilbert and Eaton team of Troy, New York, made their names by building durable, dependable transportation. But of all the builders in the Northeast, by far the most famous and influential was the Abbot-Downing Company. Lewis Downing was born around Lexington, Massachusetts in June of 1792, just years after America could proudly call itself a free nation. Though his reasons for making his way into the coach business are unclear, it's no secret that horse-drawn transportation permeated his young life. His father, a tanner, or leather worker by trade, had spent his fair share of time working his art on wagons, among other jobs. In addition, his family's home near Lexington and subsequent relocation to Newburgh, New York, put them right in the midst of all the commotion of Boston and New York's main stage roads. Whatever the case, however, something caught Lewis's interest, and the creative spark was set silently ablaze. By the age of 21, Lewis Downing had distanced himself from the family business and begun his own work as a wheelwright. Though pursuit of his growing interest may have come as no surprise to friends and family, his new choice of location was. Already situated along the main hotspot of Eastern transportation, Lewis was, arguably, in an ideal place to begin his work. What, then, could have caused him to move his talent northwards? Perhaps it was simply by chance. Or perhaps, as in many great stories, it was because of a girl. Lewis's fiancée at the time, a young Lucy Wheelock, often stayed with extended family in northern New England. It wouldn't have been surprising, then, to find Lewis tagging along on one of her visits. But perhaps, most likely of all, the businessman in young Lewis Downing instinctively knew he wouldn't be able to compete with established coachmakers in the area, like James Gould or Gilbert and Eaton. Moving further north would alternatively allow him to catch business on a different transportation route, towards Montreal. In any case, 1813 found him setting his business down in the relatively unknown city of Concord, New Hampshire. Throughout the next journey of his life, Downing honed his art of wheel-making, a surprisingly precise skill. By 1827, his business and Concord's popularity were beginning to flourish. Downing's continued interest in coach-making led him to hire on young coach bodybuilder J. Stevens Abbott for a short period of work. With their talents combined, they produced 3 coaches together that winter. His contract completed, Abbott left Concord and returned home. Surprisingly, though, the 3 coaches received so much attention that soon orders were pouring in to the unprepared wheelwright's shop back in Concord. Abbott returned in 1828, and together the 2 artisans founded the Downing and Abbott Company to fill the growing demand for their coaches. While their catalog expanded to include a variety of horse-drawn vehicles like the Overland wagon, more affectionately known as the Mud Wagon, their initial coach model still remained at the top of their lists. Known in their advertisements as the Mail Coach, the vehicle quickly adopted its more personal and well-known name, and thus the Concord Coach was born.
There's a Concord coach a-comin', you can hear the people say, from Boston to St. Louis to California.
Setting it apart from its predecessors, the Concord Coach was unique in its design, most notably in its suspension system. While older coaches and wagons used, if anything, metal springs to help dispel some of the jerky motion of road travel, Downing and Abbott employed a new system of thorough braces made up of thick leather straps. Running lengthwise along the carriage, the leather allowed the coach to sway more smoothly back and forth, making for an overall much more comfortable ride. In a time of horse-drawn wagons, dirt roads, and potholes, this meant a world of difference. Though each coach was made to order, from each lightbox down to its intricate paint job, 3 common sizes and 3 basic styles broke coaches down for potential buyers. 6, 9, or 12 passenger carriages came in either city style, western style, or hotel style, priced around $1,200 each, which today would be the equivalent of $30,000 to $40,000. The coach became the Cadillac or Mercedes-Benz of its time. In fact, in order to grab customers' attention and gain an edge over their competition, some companies would advertise that they used no ordinary carriages, but genuine Concord coaches for all their transportation.
The tales of deeds and daring are many.
The popularity, of course, kept Downing and Abbott going strong with their line of coaches and wagons for nearly 20 years. Till 1847, when, for mysterious reasons, the company took a drastic turn, and the 2 founding members split for good.
Now many years
While some historians speculate that the Depression of 1838 may have had a tough effect on shares and morale, it's also possible that creative differences simply pulled the 2 men apart. Abbott retained the premises on Main Street, renaming the company J.S. Abbott, while Downing moved his business across the street with his children as partners to form L. Downing and Sons. And life continued more or less peacefully for both companies.
coach a-comin'.
By 1865, nearly 20 years after the split, both Downing and Abbott had finally retired and left the businesses to their sons. In a mutual agreement, the 2 sides ended their long separation and joined one last time to form the Abbot-Downing and Company, eventually renamed the Abbot-Downing Company.
Forevermore. There's a Concord coach a-comin'.
The latter half of the 19th century was an exciting time for growing America. Westward expansion made transportation and Abbot-Downing coaches more important than ever. 1857 saw the opening of the Overland Mail Route and the birth of the transcontinental stagecoach connection. Despite the growth and use of the locomotive, stagecoaching remained key, and the Concord coach was at the head of it. They were literally the wheels that crossed America. And America wasn't all they crossed. The Abbot-Downing masterpiece was at one point so well known that shipments were being sent across the world by ship. Today, the coaches can still be found in Zimbabwe, South Africa, and even Melbourne, Australia. At their height, the Concord coaches were the icon that America knew and loved, the key to the West, and even the adopted logo of the Western Wells Fargo Bank. But by the late 1800s, coaches as a mean of transportation had nearly faded. While the coaches went on to become the stuff of tourist, hotel, and mountain travel, the Industrial Revolution opened the world of transportation up to trains, planes, and automobiles. The Concord coach had run its course.
Gee, Grandpa, I never knew Concord was a famous place.
Well, since you guys are so interested, I think we have one more stop to do. Marcia, we really appreciate you doing this. It means an awful lot to the kids.
The Barn Museum is open for anyone to come to see it, and we'd love to have school children come and visit. We'll open it up at any time and have you come through and look at all of the coaches and the carriages that were built by Abbot-Downing in Concord.
That's great. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
The Abbot-Downing Historical Society is based out of Concord, New Hampshire, with a museum barn in Hopkinton, New Hampshire. More information can be found by contacting them directly or by visiting their website at www.concordcoach.org.
There's a Concord coach a-comin', you can hear the people say, from Boston to St. Louis to California. The name of Abbot-Downing was known from shore to shore, and the glory of the Concord stage will live forevermore. His name was Lewis Downing, he was only 21 when he journeyed to New Hampshire from his home in Lexington. He'd come to court his true love, and in the month of May he married Lucy Wheelock and settled down to stay. Now Lewis was a wheelwright like his father was before. He started building wooden sleighs and wagons by the score. He joined